There are a ton of operators in R6, 65 to be exact. If you want the numbers, there they are. With each having their own unique ability, there are over 1,000 duo combinations that you can make between attack and defense. That's why we took 10 different duo strategies and rated them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how strong they are, how easy they actually are to do, and how fun they are. We're also going to talk about why some of these are incredibly strong options while the others might be some of the worst picks you can make. The first thing you need to know when talking about duo strategies is that everything comes down to your teamwork. If both you and your duo communicate well and play off one another, you can take a literal terrible strategy and still make it work. Trust me, even with the worst of these strategies, we were still able to win rounds just based off our ability to communicate well and gather information as a duo. So great teamwork turns out to be the best duo strategy of them all. And while we're on the topic of great teamwork, let's talk about how I've teamed up with the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. At this point, if you don't know what this game is, I don't really even know how that's possible, but for those of you who don't, Raid Shadow Legends is the first game that brings a true console level experience right to your phone. Accessible, fun, and probably the best part of all for me personally is that it's grindable. I am a grinder, and in this game there's a ton of different champions to collect and level up. And how would a grinder such as myself approach this? Farming the campaign. You grind XP and get tons of silver at the same time, which you can then spend on those level ups, rinse, repeat, grind. Right now I've been playing a lot of Sethalia. Firstly, when she comes in uppercutting these people with this, like, I know that's gotta hurt. That is a big old clunk they're getting. She's a fantastic support champion that's useful everywhere. Also, legendary rarity, so kind of a big deal. But my favorite skill of hers has to be her heal. Not only can it dramatically heal a single teammate, but it will also remove any debuffs they've gotten simultaneously. And then the cooldown is also super low, so you can just keep using it. It's great. Probably my very favorite thing of all about Sethalia, though, is that my name is Seth. So she's basically my sole champion mate. Is that a word? It's probably, it might be a word. And right now, guys, Raid is also running an amazing trick-or-treat promotion Halloween, where you can win a bunch of real-life and in-game prizes, including $1,000 Amazon gift cards, and some of the best epic and legendary Halloween champions in Raid. The best part, it's all free, and it's super easy. All you need is your Raid player ID, just download Raid with my link in the description, and then head to trickortreat.plarium.com. To make it even easier, I linked that in the description as well. From there, you just enter your details, and then you spin the wheel to get your prize. Don't wait around. This special event runs October 15th to November 5th, and once it's over, so be fast. You can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level up any of your strongest champions all the way to level 50. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen. You'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking about getting a free epic champion, Tayrell, and much more. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Thank you for Raid for sponsoring the video, and now let's get back to some R6 duo queue action. The first duo strategy we're going to use is an attack strategy using Capitao and Glass. The idea of the strategy is very simple. You want to push directly onto the site and use the smoke grenades to try and plant the bomb. The nice thing about Capitao is that he has those hard breach tools, so it makes it really easy to open up any exterior walls onto the site, and if you really need to, you can bring the grenades on Glass to destroy any wall denial through like a drone hole or from a window or whatever. So if you can manage to get a wall open on site, or even just go from like a doorway or wherever you really want, you can use those smoke grenades and Glass to cover the plant as Capitao just drops the bomb down. Nice thing about Capitao too is he has those flame bolts, so you can fire off any other areas that they might swing from or try to contest from, and it makes it very easy to get the plant down, especially if the defenders aren't ready for it. The strength of this strategy, I'm giving it a 9, because it is a very strong strategy, especially if they're not ready, and if you just bust this out once a game, it's going to be very, very powerful. The really nice thing about this strategy is that Capitao has a ton of utility, including the Gone 6, 2 flames, 2 smokes, and hard breach tools, so you can just bring so much utility to kind of overwhelm the defenders, especially if there's only 2 of you. The more utility, the better, so this strat is very good. For how easy it actually is to pull off, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's relatively easy, but you do need to coordinate pretty well with each other. Getting those smoke grenades in the right spot and also pulling out the Capitao bolt can be a little risky, so it's pretty easy to get killed when you're trying to pull it off or nitroed on the plant. So for the actual easiness of it, I would give it like a 7. This is not the most fun strategy in the world. It is relatively fun because it's so strong. It feels like you're just destroying them in a way. For the Glass player, it's a lot of fun. For the Capitao player, it can be a little less fun. So I'm giving this funness a level 6. out of 10, 6 out of 10. And that wraps us up with an average score for the Capital Glass strat of a 7.3. Next up, we have a defense strategy, and this is a classic throwback, the Rook Doc strategy. I wasn't going to throw this one in here, but both these operators just got buffed pretty massively. Doc now having the Bailiff Pistol and his stims doing 200 HP rather than 40. And then Rook, of course, having the withstand function on his armor plate, so anybody who has the Rook armor can withstand. So now if you go down as Rook, you can get healed up by your Doc afterwards after you withstand across the map. And both these guns are just fun to use. The general idea of this strat is just to shoot everyone. You have lots of health. You can tank bullets. You can overheal and tank more bullets and go down and withstand. And you're just human machines of death. You're basically just juggernauts in this strategy. Just try not to get headshot and you're good to go, but you can definitely tank a lot of bullets to the body. In all honesty, I don't think this strat is really that good. The strength of it, I'm giving it a 4 because I think Rook and Doc are just characters, you know, yes, they add health and yes, it can be a lot of fun, but in all honesty, I don't think this strat is very strong because most other ops just provide more utility for your team and are actually just better picks overall. I think bringing traps or bringing smoke or bringing mute or bringing utility that impacts the attackers a little more and makes their job a little bit harder actually makes it easier to win the round than just having a bit of extra health. But if you want to go that Call of Duty playstyle, this might be the duo strat for you. For strength, I'm giving it a 4. I do think it is a weaker strategy to use. I personally would much rather attack into a Doc and a Rook than a Capcan and a Thorn, or a Smoke and a Mute, or a Mira and a Valkyrie. Just all these operators that are so good and so annoying to deal with, and Rook and Doc are really missing that function. For the easiness of the strategy, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 because this is really the easiest you can get. You throw down the armor plates, you shoot a couple holes in the wall with the Bailiff, and then you just run around and try to kill people. There's not much more to it. You throw your stuff down and you shoot back, and that's it. It's as easy as that. It's as easy as that. For the funness of the strategy, I am giving it a 9 out of 10. This is definitely one of the most fun strategies you can run. Pew pew, shoot shoot, 2x sight, 1.5 sight. MP5s are a ton of fun to use, and you can run around together like just juggernaut tanks, and it's really fun. It's really fun, I can't lie. Not the strongest strat in the world, but really fun and very easy to do. I'm giving this one a 7.7 out of 10 overall. Next up, we have the Ying Montang strategy. Now, this one is actually a bit of a surprise for me. I did not expect to have this in this video, but we ran it a couple times, and it absolutely dominated people, and I was like, hell yeah. We're talking about this because this strategy is a freaking beast. Essentially what you're doing here is you're using the Monty shield to gather information for your Ying player, and then your Ying player is going to safely throw those Candelas to blind the people in front of Monty. Yes, you will probably blind your Monty as well, but as long as the enemy's blind, they probably won't be able to kill the Monty because he's a shield, and you can run in there and shoot them in the side of the face while they're fully blind. This one was surprisingly strong. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because it's just crazy how easy it is to relay the information to your duo. As the Monty player, you can just say he's right here, you ping him, you call where he's at, and that Ying can just come in, walk in, blind him, shoot him in the side of the head, keep going, and just charge through people, and it is actually ridiculously strong, and I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised at how strong this one was. For the actual easiness of it, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It's not the easiest thing to pull off. It is a little bit risky, and if your Ying dies, you're kind of in a really bad spot with Monty because he's kind of lacking that utility. So if you are dying as the Ying, you're in a bad spot, but if you're not, and if you are smart about it and your communication is really good, then you can pull it off. For the funness of this one, I have to give it a very high score. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Just seeing how it works and the fact that people don't really do it, it makes it unique. It makes it a lot of fun, and it's a definitely a different way to play Rainbow Six. So 8 out of 10 funness. Overall, this strategy is getting a 7.3 out of 10. The next strat we have is definitely for more experienced players or just players that want something a little more in-depth in terms of strategy, and it's a Castle Azami strategy. Essentially, the idea of this strategy is just to block off a ton of entrances and make it confusing for the attackers. The more barricades and stuff they have to break through, the more confusing the lines of sights are, the more confusing the positioning of the players are, and it's just less predictable from an advanced perspective. What you're doing is you're just making the attackers put in the work to clear all this stuff or figure out what's going on using their drones, and most people will just run in and ignore the setup anyway. So as long as you're holding these weird angles using these castle strategies and these Azami strategies, you should be in a good spot. For the actual strength of this, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. If you're doing complex strategies with the castles and the Azamis and people people are just confused as what's going on, it's going to be very, very strong and very, very effective. However, it's not the easiest thing to pull off. It's tough to get a good strategy with their utility if you haven't planned it ahead of time. There's definitely a lot of pre-planning that needs to go involved. You have to communicate where you're putting the castles, where you're putting the Azamis early in the round in the prep phase so that you're not having just like a really messed up poor strat. So it's definitely harder to pull off, and I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 for the actual ease of doing it. Another thing about the easiness of it is that it just takes a long time to set up. So if you aren't precise with every movement you make in the prep phase, you could run out of time and just not get those castles down in time, or not get the lines of sight that you need, or not get the rotates. So that makes it also a little more tough. It's also not really that fun. It's more just an option to win the round. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 for funness because, you know, it's fun to kill people. It's fun when it works, and it's okay. It's really just you're sitting in one spot hoping they walk into your angle. It can get a little boring, and funness, yeah, 6 out of 10. For the next duo attack strategy, we have a personal favorite of mine. This is the Fuse Amaru strategy, and this one will blow your mind if you haven't seen it before. Essentially what you do with this is you go Fuse, repel on a window, place your Fuse charge, blow the Fuse charge, and Amaru flies into the same window as the Fuse charge is exploding. So the sound of the Fuse charge will actually cover up the sound of Amaru flying in the window, and they won't even know that she's entered the building. For the actual strength of this strategy, I'm giving it a 6.5. It sounds really good, but at the same time, it's very easily countered if they shoot you while you're fusing, if they nitro you while you're fusing the window. If they just open the window, you can't do it anymore. You're relying on a lot of things to actually work for it to work. So strength-wise, it's not the greatest, but if you can pull it off, it's awesome. The other thing about this too is Amaru does have to win her gunfights and also hope that she doesn't get caught up in a Capcan trap, a Thorn trap, any sort of traps that she might walk into. So it's a little risky. There's not a lot of info for it usually. So it's not the strongest, but it does have some other redeeming factors. For the easiness of the strategy, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It can be tough. It can be tough, especially if your Amaru player does not have the greatest aim, and at the same time, your fuse is kind of super far out of the push. So you fuse the window, and then after that, your Amaru either kills everyone or they die, and you're kind of left on your own as fuse, and that can make it very tough. The other point from before, it can be hard to fuse the window if they're shooting at you, shooting out of it, nitroing it, etc. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and you know, it's relatively easy to do, but at the same time, it could be really hard. You also have to choose the right spot to do it at. Maybe you have to do a little bit of droning beforehand to know what you're going into. So 7 out of 10 easiest. Fairly easy, but there's definitely stages that can make it stronger for you, or steps you can take to make it better. For the funness though, man, this is one of the most fun strategies I have today for you. It is a 9.5 out of 10. When it works, it feels so good. It is so exciting, especially if you're that Amaru player flying in through a cluster of exploding fuse charges like a fucking badass. It's sick. And then you go in and you're shooting them in the back and they don't even know you're there. You're giggling, you're laughing, you're having a good time. This is a top tier strategy for funness. This next defense strategy is a bit of a cheese strategy that would definitely work in like lower ranks or against players who don't drone at all. If you find they're not droning, run this strategy because you will get a ton of kills using it. And it's the Goyo Capcan strategy. Essentially what you're doing here is you're placing the Goyos right on the wall next to the Capcan traps that you're placing. So when an attacker comes through the Capcan trap, the Goyo canister simultaneously explodes, dropping the fire, doing damage. Both these things will do damage and they'll just kill the attacker. So you can put these in various areas around the map. For the actual strength of it though, I'm giving it a 3. It's super easy to counter. Either 1, they shoot the Capcan trap because they see it, or 2, they drone out the Goyo or the Capcan, see them both, and then they just don't walk into the Capcan. Anything that takes out of the Capcan is going to take out the Goyo simultaneously because you're not going to be roaming in that area to actually shoot the Goyo. The Goyo is strictly there for when the Capcan explodes. So a lot of your Goyos will just go as a waste, as well as a lot of your Capcan traps. So you're really relying on a lot to work out for this strat to work out, and it's kind of just a waste of utility. So strength-wise, I'm giving it a 3, but when it works, hey, great, you did it. It's super easy. You just place your stuff. The hardest part about the strategy is actually just communicating where you're placing the stuff, which could be as easy as just pinging where you're doing it or just following your teammate around. So for the easiness of the strategy, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Super easy to do, but again, probably not that strong. Funness, I'm giving it a 5. I think it's not the most fun strategy you can use. When it pays off, it is pretty cool to see it work, but it's not really super exciting, and you're usually on the other side of the map from your actual utility anyway, and all of a sudden you'll see a Goyo kill in the feed, and you'll be like, hey, we got one. Either that or nothing will happen, and it's just kind of like a round played as Rook and Doc, except you're not Rook and Doc, you're just Capcan and Goyo. So, yeah. Next up is a classic duo attack strategy that you may already know of or may have tried before. We got the Ying Fuse Strat, baby. Pretty self-explanatory. You Ying the floor or the wall, and then you fuse it right after. So, with the Candela going off first, it's going to blind the defenders down there, and then the fuse charge will kill the blind defenders that can't see what's going on or hear what's going on, and the next thing they know, they're dead. To do this properly, you definitely want to place the cluster charge first, and then the Candela afterwards, so the Candela will go off right away, and then the fuse can blow it whenever you tell them to blow it, so that way they're actually blind before the fuse is going off, so they don't know how to run away. Or don't even know to run away at that point. The toughest thing about this strategy, though, is actually getting into the position where you can fuse the floor and Ying the floor. Firstly, you have no flank watch, so it's super easy to get flanked and killed while you're actually placing it. Secondly, you could get nitroed while you're doing it, which also will destroy your strategy. And thirdly, getting into that position in the first place, clearing the roamers out if they have them, which a lot of the time in the higher ranks they will, is also tough. So if either of you guys die in the first little bit of the round before you actually get into the position to do said thing, then this strategy is going to the shitter. For those reasons, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 on the strength scale. When you actually do get the Yings and the fuses off, you gotta hope that you're actually in the right spot as well. So a lot of times you can just, even if you do get to this point, you aren't even gonna get any kills. So it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest. It's also not the easiest, again, for the same reasons. It's tough to get in those spots, and it's tough to stay alive while simultaneously trying to watch your flank, clear the roam. All that stuff is just makes it way more difficult, so it's getting a 4 out of 10 for easiness too. For the actual funness, you know, it's relatively fun. When it works, it is pretty fun. It's kind of cool to work together in that way. And Fuse has the AK-12, which is super fun. But at the same time, it can be super annoying when one of you guys dies, and that kind of ruins the whole thing. And then you're like, fuck, gotta try this again next time, I guess. So it's not the most fun. It's not the worst fun, which totally is a thing. But I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 on funness, which overall gives us a score of 5 out of 10 for the Fuse Ying strat. For a strat that's not quite as weak, though, we have the Echo Roam strategy. So one of you guys plays Echo, the other can play whatever roamer they choose, whether it's Alibi, Vigil, Legion, Mozzie, Mute, whoever you really want. I personally like running Mute on this one, so you're denying the enemy information with the Mute jammers if you put them on the roam. And then you can use the Echo to give you information. So now, not only does the enemy have less information, but you have more, giving you an advantage in the fights on the roam. So the way you'll do this is Echo will sit on site. I usually like to put just one yokai on the site with me in case they get into the site from another way. I can just Echo them, hop off my cams, and then fight them. With the other yokai, you're going to use this for your roamer. So you're going to actively drone your roamer around. If you see an enemy, try to distract them with your drone. You can hop into the roof, Echo them, and then your teammate can come in and plow through them with their gun or whatever tools of destruction they have to kill this guy. And then boom, you're just murking people left and right around the map. It's lots of fun. It's epic. It's poggers. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 for the strength of the strategy. The strategy is also relatively easy. As long as the roamer is staying behind the Echo, you should be good to go. And as long as you can communicate where they are on the Echo drone, whether that's a ping, a scan, or just saying he's right here, he is in stock, he is blah, 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 blah. And then hopping up that drone, echoing them, and then just winning in the gunfight. So relatively easy, just shooting people and driving drones around. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Really the only hard part is checking back and forth on the cams to make sure you're not getting rushed from a different area, and checking thoroughly for where they actually are while you're running around. For the funness, I think this is a relatively fun strategy. It's very satisfying getting those kills after they're disoriented. Watching it on the cameras is a lot of fun. So even though you're sitting on cams as Echo, you're still having fun at the same time. And of course, the guy plowing through everybody on the roam is also having fun, racking up all the kills. So I'm getting it an 8 out of 10 for funness. So in total, we have an 8.2 out of 10 for the Echo Roam strat, and try it out yourself. It's a good one. This next attack strategy is another common strategy that people try to use or talk about at least a lot. It's the Dokebi IQ Strat. So the idea of the strategy is call the phones with Dokebi, look through the floor with IQ, and floor bang the defenders using IQ scanner because you can see the phones. Except it turns out that you can't see the phones unless they're answering the phone call. So this strategy has a serious downside, which is that if they don't answer the phones, you can't see them, making it a complete waste. I didn't actually realize this until we were partway through doing it, because I was staring right through the floor. We knew he was there, but we could not find the phone. It was ringing, and I was like, what the hell's going on? So I'm assuming this must be the issue. For the actual strength of this, I'm giving him a 3.5 out of 10. You could just pick way better operators with more utility to actually achieve more, whether it's grenades, hard breachers, Thatcher, whatever. IQ's not bringing much utility to the team. Dokebi can be good. Dokebi is a decent pick right now, though. But it's really just the fact that you're clearing underneath. You might have to use even a phone call to get in underneath safely without dying to the roamers. If one of you guys dies, again, the strat goes to shit. So trying to actually clear the roamers underneath or above, whichever way you're going for the site, can be tough. It can be tough, and it's just a sloppy strategy, and I don't love it. 3.5 out of 10. For the actual easiness, this is probably one of the hardest strategies to pull off. Firstly, you have to clear the roam, and then you have to hope they answer the phones. You have to be in the right area when the phone goes off, or you might miss your chance to actually floor bang them. So it's just very tough to do as well, and it's getting a 2 out of 10 for fun. Easiness, not fun. Easiness, 2 out of 10. Easiness, 2 out of 10. For the actual funness, I thought this was not fun at all. It was more just frustrating. F is not for fun anymore. It's for frustration. I give it a 4.5 out of 10 for funness. I really think there's just better strategies that are more fun, and this is not one of them. So overall, we're giving the Dokebi IQ Strat a 3.3 out of 10. Probably, actually, this is the worst one out of all of them on this list. But one that is much less worse is a defense strat, which is the Clash plus Shooter combo. And Shooter isn't an operator, it's just whatever operator you want to run that you feel like a shooter on. Thunderbird is a great pick for this, because not only does Thunderbird have a C4, so you can C4 people below, but you can also get healed up for Clash, because if Clash takes some damage, it'd be better to have more health. But if you want like a higher zoom scope, then you could pick someone else too. Basically, the idea of the strategy is you stun them with Clash, you keep them still, and then your shooter of the two of you swings and just kills them because they're in the middle of the open, and it should be a relatively easy kill to get. Again, if they're on a soft floor, you can nitro them from underneath, which is also pretty cool, because you can just shock them, slow them, tell them to nitro on the ping. The nitro goes off, and boom, they're dead. It's pretty cool. For the actual strength of the strategy, I'm giving it an 8. If they EMP the Clash shield, it's pretty easy for them to kill you. If Clash just dies by being over-aggressive, again, the strategy falls to shit. If you're the person swinging somehow gets smoked when they're swinging, then the strategy falls apart. So there's a lot of situations where the strategy can fall apart, but most of the time you should be good. So 8 out of 10 for strength. For the actual easiness of the strat, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's relatively easy to do, but your Clash player does have to be a decent Clash player. You can't get over aggressive to the point where they're meleeing your shield and shooting your ankles, because that is just a great way to die. Again, if you get pwned as the shooter and your aim is not good enough, it makes it tough. You lose, you die. So easiness, 7 out of 10. Relatively easy, but you do have to have some essential skills to actually make it work. And for the funness, I mean, you cannot get much better than this strategy. This is an 8.5 out of 10 on the fun scale, measured by me. It is so satisfying to watch those people get pwned as the Clash. If you're shocking them and they just fall over their dead bodies, it's great. It's awesome. Plus, the other guy, he's racking up the kills. It's similar to the Echo Roam strat, where you're just, one guy's getting a lot of kills, and the other guy's watching it all happen and being part of it. And it's fun. It's great, trust me. Overall, the Clash times Shooter strategy is getting a 7.8 out of 10. Pretty good record. Pretty solid score right there. So those are the 10 duo strategies, but we have a bonus strat, baby. We're talking the Dokebi Blitz Roam Clear Strat Duo Epic Bonanza Awesome. This one is my personal favorite duo strategy of all time, I think. What you do is you call the phones with Dokebi and then run down the roamers with Blitz. So you enter from the farthest side of the map from the site as possible. Once you're in the building, you know, maybe you do some initial droning on the first room, and then you enter in the building as Blitz. Dokebi calls those phones. You hear the phones, you hunt them down, you blind them, you kill them. It's over. Especially if they're not working together on the roam. This is an easy way to just pick people off one by one. And after you kill that first roamer, Dokebi can come in and hack the phones, and then you have all the cameras. Very strong strategy. 9 out of 10 on the strength scale, especially on any basement site on a map where you can come in on the top floor, find the roamers, hunt them down. you're basically just starting the round off with a 4v5 or a 3v5 by killing 1 or 2 people. And it's really, really easy to do, which is why it's an 8 out of 10 for easiness. As long as you have a good headset on the blitz and you can hear the phones ringing, you should be absolutely fine, because those phone calls you can hear from so far away. Really, the only thing is if you're coming in through, say, top floor cafe and there's tons of angles on you, then it can be a little risky, can be a little dangerous. But relatively speaking, it's very easy to do. 8 out of 10. And for the funness, like I said, this is my favorite strategy there is for duo queue. This is a 10 out of 10 funness in my opinion. It is so good to run those people down, blind them. They have no chance. They have no chance. And not only that, but they get so mad because you're playing blitz that they type in the chat, and it's just hilarious. This is by far the greatest time I've had playing Siege, is running this exact strategy. So overall, our bonus strat, Dokebi Blitz, is going to be a 9 out of 10 overall rating. Anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like, comment, or even share this with your R6 friends so that you can run some of these duo queue strategies yourself. Try them out. Have a good time. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.